What's going on YouTube? Welcome to episode 136 of the U.S.S. Enterprise D tutorial. I'm Zero Elite and I just want to thank you very much for tuning in today's episode. If you haven't, please don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button helping me and supporting the channel. I can't thank you enough for that. And of course, don't forget to join the Discord channel. I'll have a link in the description below. Right now I'm doing a poll on my next ship build. So if you want to get involved with that, be sure to join the Discord. Once you do, click on Next Ship Build Polls, and you'll be able to see the list that I've accumulated based off my top requests on Minecraft. So definitely check that out. Anyway, we've got about a 25-minute episode today. We're going to be picking up right where we left off in episode 135, continuing our work on the transporter room. So let's just go ahead and just jump right into this thing. So the room's looking pretty good so far, but we need to clean it up a little bit. We need to get the pads a little bit more. The placement needs to be adjusted here. And I think the back wall needs a little bit of work too, to be honest with you. Because the biggest problem that we're having right now with the transporter room is that the foundation, I made it too wide, which is a problem because now what's basically happening is that we're not really in a position to where we can have all of the blocks that we're going to have for each pad separated. So we'll come back to that. I think what we're going to do right now is add another layer of the yellow on the back wall just to give it a little bit of a lip and a little bit more texture just to see how it looks. Because this is the thing too, if it doesn't look good, we could always take it down. Yeah, I don't like that gap in the top row where the gray was, so we're just going to fill that in, see how it looks with the added layer. Maybe the transporter room is just slightly too big on the back wall. It doesn't look too bad. I think at this point apples or oranges, whichever way you prefer. This is just one of those things that, I try to include everything that I do on these recording sessions just so that you can see the trial and error that I go through. As you can see now, I'm reverting back to what we had before. I just think that it looks a little bit better than what we have right now. But I'm still glad I tried it out. Sometimes trying out these mistakes, or not necessarily mistakes, but trying out new things, you'd be surprised what that can lead you to sometimes. More times than not, just by testing things out and trying things out, I've just basically fallen into what I was going to end up doing because I was willing to experiment and just try something new, pretty much. Now we're just going to make a slight adjustment to the lip here on the sides. Yeah, no, she's looking pretty good. I tell you what, I'm really looking forward to the build after the Enterprise D. Because don't get me wrong, I've had a blast working on this thing, but even for myself, like the day that this thing is done and I'm able to move on to another build, I think that's what I'm going to be really excited for because It's we're going on just about a year and a half now that I've been working on the Enterprise D. It's crazy. It's not the longest build that I've ever had, but it's definitely the longest tutorial that I've ever had. I briefly want to get back to what we got going on here. You can see that I added a row on the left side, and the reason I did this was going back to that point that I made, I think in the last episode, episode 135, that having a 2-block middle basically messed up our entire build here because it made it much more difficult for us to have an established middle, so that this way it became a little bit easier to split up our transporter pads basically. So what I've had to do now is I've had to go in and add another row just to stretch this thing out just a little bit more than what it's currently at. So now, of course, we have to go in, we have to fill in our roof, and then we have to do the half slabs. Now the placement of them looks better, but now that middle block, we have to adjust that. But yeah, there's something about those. Yeah, I don't know if I like that. We're going to have to get rid of that. I think the thing to do at this point is just to do a single block in the actual pad itself to represent a placement for a crew member to get on, and call it a day at that. You just have to be careful at this point with what you're doing, because making these types of changes, the shape that you started with can kind of get lost. So I've been very careful to make sure that what I'm adding is the same template that what we had before, just one block wider. Now I just want to double check and make sure that my lips match up. There we go. Now that doesn't look too bad. Somebody might just walk away from what we have right now, but for me, it still feels like it's missing something. I've already basically given you guys a secret of what we're going to be doing here, that we're just going to pick a block that we want to represent the pad, and we're just going to have it built into the black bottom piece itself. Now that doesn't look too bad, with the floor stopping one before the ceiling. You know, because again, at this point, we're just doing a series of interchangeable decisions on the placement of our floor or ceiling or back wall, just making slight adjustments to it until we get to something that we want. And I might even move the ceiling back by one as well. Again, you have to remember the TNG transporter room, the pad itself, it's not very big. It's not looking too bad, but we still have to get our situation set up with the pads and the floor. Now, what you're seeing me use now with these light sensors, this was the template that I had for my old transporter pad. Doesn't look bad, but I think going from Kirk's era to Picard's era, we can't use those same blocks. We can't. If you think they look good, I say go for it. This is one of the reasons why I'm throwing them up on the tutorial today, just so you guys can see it, so you can have something to gauge and look at. But when we swap it out here for these white blocks, this is ultimately what we're going to fall on. This, to me, just looks a little bit more futuristic compared to the transporter rooms I've done on the Constitution class. Now, what I'm looking at is the block placement directly above those pads. Basically, what I should have probably have considered was that I was going to want to have a block above them in the ceiling. So when I made this lip, I brought it back by one. That was honestly a mistake because I should have just left it, because now I'm having to go back and make more room for myself just so I can accommodate that idea and put a blue block in directly above those white ones in the ceiling. But this isn't a bad thing. You live and you learn. Sometimes you just got to throw stuff down. You have to make tweaks and adjustments. Sometimes you got to backtrack just a little bit here and there before you land on something that you 110% want. But I think that the blue blocks in the ceiling, it's going to be a necessary bit of detail just to kind of go with what we have in the floor. I think it'll look pretty good. Finally got rid of that block that was just floating there. Now this is something I'm just adding here. I'm taking in a little bit of a liberty. I don't know. I thought that the transporter console itself needed just kind of like a slight containment area for it, I guess. That's the word I'm looking for. but I just need to be careful with that, so this way I don't approach the room getting too cluttered. Aside from a couple of detailing in the wall here and there, we're pretty much approaching that point where we're going to be done with this thing, and we're getting into the last 10 minutes. So now hopefully we're going to be grabbing some of those wall details, so we can get this thing where we need it. I love those blocks. I love how it looks like an actual console. It totally helps make the ship come to life. Spending the $5 to get the grid pixel pack just for those blocks was worth it. And now since we've covered in the floor there with the sea lantern, it's kind of dark back here, so I want to correct that. I'll just put in a row of lights down there in the floor, not a big deal. Yeah, see, this is the only area that I don't like. I'm going to rewind it just so you guys can see it, because it's killing me. Right here. I don't know why it bothers me, but I don't like how the doorway is like right up on this area right here. To me, it would be a little bit more spaced out, or maybe this door would be moved over by one to make it feel less cluttered. And that is, in all honesty, is something that I might end up doing. But yeah, that doorway there, just the placement of it where it's at right now, it's kind of bugging me. But we're not going to get to that in today's episode. If that's something that I address, it'll be at a later time. And these blocks look pretty cool. It kind of matches the back wall areas that you'd see on the transporter room in TNG. And it's just to give it a little bit of extra something, and not just have so much of this doo-doo green color on the wall. Because I'm trying here. I'm trying to stay as faithful as I can, but making changes where it makes sense to. I think that looks pretty good. I like that paneling there. To be honest with you, I wish I had the grid pixel pack when I made the Borg cube, because these blocks, the basalt, that would be something I would have been using in the Borg cube for sure, because it looks great. I'm going to take out this one in the left corner here, because sometimes less is more, and also the right corner. You don't want to overdo it. And if it feels like it's too much, then chances are it's too much. Not quite sure how I feel about the stairs there. Usually that works, stuff like that, but in this room, I don't know why, it just is feeling cluttered. And it just seems like in this room at least, less is more is kind of the best way to go about it. Okay, so we're coming up on getting into the last bit of stretch on today's episode. And this is something I wanted to try out, maybe stretching out this console so it feels more flush in with the rest of the room. That could work, but then the only problem is that this darn doorway here, it needs to come over by one block. But if I do that, then I've got to shift the turbo lift that's the door right outside the transporter room. And I'm not so sure I want to go through the thrill of redoing a turbo lift again. I think I might just let it ride. Well, other than that, the rest of the room, it looks pretty darn good. I'm pretty happy with how the room came out. Everything other than the entryway, that needs to get adjusted, but everything else here, it's looking pretty good. Looks just like the transporter room on TNG, as much as we can get it in Minecraft anyway. I think the only thing we're missing here at this point is like a little blue stripe in the very center. Well, not necessarily stripe, but it would be a circle on the actual pad. We'll swap out the white concrete for white quartz just to give it kind of a little bit more of a shimmer texture to it. Could even swap out and have just like a full-on circle going around, but not quite sure how I feel about that. Doesn't look as good as what we had before. And now at this point, it's just, again, it's apples and oranges. Which way do you prefer your pads going? You want them in the middle or on each side of each other? And again, I like messing around with this stuff because this is the stuff that, helps you come up with alternatives or maybe something better than what you had before. So it's always a great idea to experiment a little bit if you can. And if you're really worried about, hey, I'm going to make a mistake here and I don't want to mess up what I have, make a copy of it. Make 2 copies. This way, if whatever you're doing, it gets to a point where you don't feel like you can delete it and rebuild what you had before, you don't even have to worry about it. Just back out of that save, delete the save that you messed up on and go back to the one that you had just made before you made that change. Now I think I'm going to try to add like some textured stripes in the back wall here, but I don't think that's going to work out. I think we're just ultimately just going to have the row of yellow going along the back. Yeah, it doesn't look good that way. Not at all. We would have had to have used a different color maybe to make that work, but I think the yellow for at least the TNG transporter room, just having that solid yellow strip in the back for Minecraft looks the best. So I mean, those are really the last few things that I was wanting to make here. I think we can call this room done at this point. I'm pretty happy with how it came out, other than the entryway right there and where that's currently placed at. Other than that, I'm fairly happy with how this room turned out. I hope you all enjoyed this episode. But yeah, I think that's going to wrap it up for me today. I just want to thank you all again for tuning in today's episode. And hey, if you did enjoy this content, please help me out. Hit that like and subscribe button and help me in supporting the channel. Trying to get as many likes as I can on these videos, because the more I get and the more people that watch consistently, the more new people that come in. And don't forget, we've got the Star Trek Beyond Enterprise A 1.1. I had a brain fart there for a second. But yeah, we've got the 1.1 tutorial coming up once we hit 1,000 subscribers, and we're getting there. Right now we're at 675, so let's see if we can get a couple more subscribers. So if you can help me out, share these videos with your friends, try to get some new subscribers, or subscribe to my channel from an alt account. That would be pretty cool too, either or. But yeah, I think that's going to wrap us up for today. I hope everybody has a happy and safe week, and I'll catch you in the next episode. Of course, what did you make of Minecraft today? Let me know in the comments section.